Welcome back to The Explainer. I want you to go ahead and lower your lights, turn up your volume, and seriously, prepare yourself for this one. Today we're taking a deep, dramatic plunge into the absolute darkest, most terrifying corners of the Warhammer 40K universe. We are talking about a cosmos so utterly unforgiving, so relentlessly brutal, that merely getting killed in battle, that's considered a stroke of absolute luck. A clean death is a total luxury in this setting. And look, to make this unimaginable, cosmic body horror even slightly palatable and maybe add just a tiny touch of grim comedy to all the dread, we're going to be illustrating this entire agonizing journey using our innocent 2D stick figure animations. Trust me on this. Watching our little cartoon guy endure these cosmic nightmares really puts the sheer, crushing absurdity of 40K into perspective.
So, I want you to imagine a universe where dying is actually the upgrade, right? We aren't just talking about a quick, painful end here. We're talking about scenarios where the true, ultimate terror lies in the absolute, agonizing loss of your bodily autonomy, the complete fracturing of your mind, the systematic consumption of your very soul. Today, we are going to explore 8 specific fates ripped straight from the darkest archives of 40K lore, where oblivion would genuinely be the ultimate mercy. Let's begin the descent.
Section 1. Flesh, Mutation, and Alien Betrayal. This is the complete and utter loss of biological control.
Let's walk through the gene stealer cult life cycle, as experienced by our increasingly mutated stick figures. Step 1. The ambush. You're cornered in the dark by a gene stealer. Now, this is an advanced vanguard organism for a galaxy-consuming alien swarm called the Tyranids. But it doesn't kill you. No, instead, it violently injects alien genetic material right under your skin while locking you in this paralyzing physical hypnosis. You wake up later, absolutely no memory of the attack. But your DNA? It's been fundamentally rewritten from the inside out. Then comes step 2, devotion. You suddenly feel this overwhelming manufactured compulsion to reproduce. You find a partner, they get infected through your contact, and your children are born, well, wrong. Bulbous, misshapen skulls, extra limbs ending in vicious talons, bruised, purplish skin. But here's the kicker. The psychic control hardwired into your brain makes you see them as utterly flawless. You love them completely, fiercely, without hesitation. By step 3, the 5th generation of your bloodline, your offspring are just pure gene stealers, towering, multi-armed alien killing machines. And yet, you look up at these apex predators and see the most perfect beings you've ever created. You literally worship them as angels. And then, step 4. The swarm finally arrives from the void.
It's like the quote says, generations of love and sacrifice, all engineered so you'd walk yourself to the dinner table. The cult gathers in pure, fanatical ecstasy, right? They're awaiting salvation from the stars. And then, snap. That psychic link holding your mind hostage simply breaks. For the very first time in your life, the veil lifts. You see the Tyranids with your own, unclouded eyes. They aren't saviors. They're just a tidal wave of scythes, claws, and gnashing teeth, mindlessly consuming every living thing you've ever built. You have just enough time to truly understand what you've become and to look at the horrifying monsters your children actually are before you march blank-faced into the digestion pools. These are massive planetary acid baths that dissolve bone, metal, and flesh into a biological slurry. The physical suffering might be brief at the very end, sure, but that psychological betrayal, it is absolute. It's the ultimate nightmare.
The contrast here is just staggering. Think about a Space Marine captain, disciplined, glorious, genetically perfected, and virtually indestructible. Now compare that to a Chaos spawn. You see, if you foolishly worship the dark entities of the warp, you receive powerful gifts, right? Unnatural strength, impossibly tough skin, incredible speed. But one day, the dark gods just get bored of you. The gifts stop being upgrades. Without warning, your bones elongate into jagged spikes that violently punch through your own flesh. Organs burst, spray burning acidic, and reform entirely wrong. Thrashing tentacles sprout from your ribs. Your jaw splits and keeps splitting until it vanishes into your chest. Notice how our violently scribbled animated host here bloats into this formless mass of shifting wet meat that literally never stops changing. And the absolute worst part of this entire ordeal? A fragment of your human awareness actually survives. Take Phassis Takar, a legendary space marine. This happened to him mid-battle. He was winning. He looked down, only to realize he was the monstrous, towering abomination his body had become. Trapped inside a mountain of mutated flesh, completely unrecognizable, just watching his own body betray him.
Moving on to Section 2, Cursed by the Machine, Merging Flesh with Cold Metal.
Watch the horrific progression of the Obliterator virus on our animated host. Stage 1, you feel fine. You're just a carrier, spreading the microscopic taint. Honestly, by the time you notice Stage 2, your doom is completely sealed. Your aim in battle gets suspiciously, impossibly better. The heavy weapons you carry start to feel incredibly light, like they're natural extensions of your own hands. But Stage 3, that is when the creeping body horror truly sets in. If you hold a gun for too long, your skin literally creeps and grows over the trigger guard. Thick tendons snake out of your wrists and fuse permanently with the barrel. Inside your arms, your body begins frantically generating heavy caliber ammunition right between your tearing muscle fibers. By the final stages, your heavy armor won't even come off. Metal and bone have entirely merged. Your sanity completely shatters as you generate flesh metal, this hideous bleeding fusion of muscle-empowered steel. Sure, you can teleport through the warp, but physically, you can only slowly walk. No running, no escaping. You are simply a walking weapons platform, wearing the agonizing, stretched-out remnants of something that used to be a person.
And then, man, there is the deeply tragic curse of the flare virus. Imagine being an immortal machine. You can't eat, you can't taste, you can't feel the warmth of the sun or the chill of the wind, but you are starving. The flayed ones are ancient Necrons, mechanical beings cursed by a dying god with this insane, maddening hunger for organic flesh that they can never, ever satisfy. It starts as a phantom itch you simply cannot scratch. Soon, you become entirely fixated on organic creatures. You hunt them down, you slaughter them, you carefully skin the corpse, and you drape that bloody, rotting skin over your cold metal skeleton like a fleshy cloak, desperately trying to feel alive again. You try to gorge yourself on the meat, but the gore just drizzles uselessly through your mechanical ribs, pooling at your metallic feet, because, well, you lack a digestive system entirely. But that gnawing hunger, it never goes away. It just burns forever.
Exiled by your own repulsed kind, you end up banished to a pocket dimension called the Ghost Wind. Just picture this, our metallic stick figures dwelling in massive, sprawling palaces built entirely out of rotting, stolen meat. You sit in the dark, drawn to real space battlefields solely by the coppery scent of blood, frantically tearing open the fabric of reality just to wade into the slaughter. The true, agonizing tragedy here is that the virus chemically amplifies the phantom memory of what having a living, breathing body felt like, and twists that distant memory into an unending, ravenous hunger. You are a cold, dead machine, forever desperately chasing a feeling you can literally never have again.
Section 3. The Imperium's Brutal Solutions. Walking Coffins of Agony.
Now you might hope that humanity would be the beacon of light in this dark galaxy, but the Imperium of Man institutionalizes unending, mechanical torture, casually employing it in the name of rigid duty and fanatic religion. The Penitent Engine and the Dreadnought Entombment share a deeply chilling baseline of existence. In both of these horrific states, you are permanently reduced to a bipedal combat walker. You experience a total, irrevocable loss of physical agency. You are utilized strictly as a living, disposable weapon for the Empire, and you are trapped in suffocating darkness between your violent deployments. But the specific flavors of their suffering, they are vastly, terrifyingly different. Let's break it down. Enter the Penitent Engine. The Imperium's sprawling state religion needed a punishment significantly worse than execution. So, as a condemned heretic, you are violently wired into the exposed front of a massive bipedal combat walker. Your arms are clamped wide open. Your unarmored body is totally exposed to incoming enemy fire. Thick neuroconnectors are drilled directly into your spine. But the true nightmare, it's this small device surgically lodged into your brain's pain center. It constantly delivers an artificial, manufactured agony 100 times greater than any real physical injury could ever produce. Your brain cannot tell the difference, but your body cannot die from the shock. Between battles, chemical implants loop guilt and fiery agony through your nervous system without a single second of pause. During combat, you feel every shrapnel blast, every round that punches through the metal chassis, right in your own chest. Combat stimulants are pumped into your heart to keep you alive through fatal injuries. You are nothing but a pain-fueled berserker, screaming and lashing out in a frenzy of fire and blood until something finally manages to kill you. Now, if the Penitent engine is a hell of absolute fiery pain, the Dreadnought is the hell of absolute sensory deprivation. Space Marines don't fear dying on the battlefield. They deeply fear surviving. If your injuries are deemed fatal but your mind is intact, they cut out whatever mangled flesh is still viable, which is perhaps just a torso and a ruined head, and permanently seal it inside a heavy, fluid-filled sarcophagus. You wake up in absolute crushing darkness. You can't move. You can't see. You can't feel your limbs. You try to scream into the void, but you have no mouth and you have no lungs. There is just sheer panic and complete unbroken sensory deprivation. When they finally activate the life support systems, you don't get your eyes back. You get raw static sensor data. You pilot a massive walking tank instead of your own body. Everything feels wrong, delayed, and distant, like piloting yourself through a mile of thick, murky glass.
Being fully conscious inside that dark, silent box, it drives Space Marines completely insane. So the technicians put you back into a deep, dreamless sleep, only ever waking you for war. Decades pass in the blink of an eye, centuries pass, millennia. Just wake, fight, sleep. That is literally all existence becomes. Each violent wake-up cycle and centuries-long hibernation slowly degrades your brain tissue. Eventually, you forget the names of the brothers you fought beside. You forget the world you were born on. You forget who you were. You didn't volunteer for this eternity. Your brother had decided for you while you were bleeding out on the dirt, simply because they still needed your combat experience. Your sanity and your suffering are entirely secondary.
Which brings us to the final, most terrifying escalation. Section 4. Trapped in eternal emptiness. The ultimate loss of the soul.
10,000 years. Just let that duration hang in the air for a second. That is the staggering, unending amount of time that the Thousand Sons Space Marines have been trapped inside the rubric of Ahriman.
The Thousand Sons were a legion plagued by a genetic flaw that was aggressively mutating them into mindless monsters. To stop this flesh-twisting mutation, their greatest sorcerer cast an impossibly massive spell. And while it worked, by instantly turning every single Marine who lacked strong psychic powers into a pile of dry dust inside their beautifully ornate armor. Picture being inside one of those sealed suits right now. Your physical body is completely gone, but your spirit, your consciousness, is permanently trapped inside the dust. The armor joints welded themselves completely shut. You have the shape of a towering warrior, but you are utterly hollow. You have no mouth, but you've been silently screaming in the dark for 10 millennia. You desperately want to breathe, but you can only experience the sensation of drowning, slowly sinking into black water without ever hitting the bottom. You freeze perfectly still like a statue for centuries at a time, entirely locked in your own mind, until a sorcerer finally commands you to move. Only then, in the heat of combat, does a tiny flicker of your former self surface, letting you fight like a living warrior for a few precious moments before the command fades and you go completely agonizingly still again in the dark. But if 10,000 years trapped in an unmoving suit sounds bad, consider the sheer cosmic tragedy of the Necron biotransference. 60 million years ago, the Necron tier species lived incredibly short, agonizing biological lives. Their bodies were riddled with radiation sickness and aggressive cancers from their home star. Desperate after losing a catastrophic galaxy-spanning war against an immortal species, their ruler made a blind deal with godlike ancient entities known as the Cetan. Transfer their frail organic forms into powerful bodies of living metal and live forever. You step into the roaring biofurnaces. You wake up in your cold, new, immortal body. The cancer is gone, but so is the sensation of touch, warmth, taste, smell, the beating of a heart, all gone forever. You look down at your children, and they are now entirely mindless metallic automatons, silently staring back with glowing optical sensors, possessing absolutely no memory of who they were.
And then, the crushing realization sets in as you understand the terrifying fine print of the dark bargain. Immortality delivered exactly as promised, but every single soul consumed is payment. The godlike Cetan had positioned themselves directly above the roaring biofurnaces, gorgeously feeding on the rich spiritual energy of billions of souls as they were ripped from their fleshy bodies. You try to feel relief that the cancer is gone, but you can't. You just get faint, hollow, phantom echoes where your genuine emotions used to be. You remember what it was like to feel joy, or sorrow, or love, and that memory makes the cold metallic absence infinitely worse. Your very soul was violently eaten as the price of admission for a perfectly hollow immortality.
Let the sheer, oppressive weight of this timeline fully sink in. 60 million years.
For 60 million years, the Necrons have experienced a permanent, unbroken decline from the very moment they achieved their twisted immortality. Their entire species lost the ability to innovate, to grow, to reproduce. They have spent millions upon millions of years desperately trying to reverse this biological process, to find a way back to the flesh. But the knowledge came from gods, and it was never actually understood by mortals. They are trapped in an eternal, inescapable phantom limb syndrome of the soul, enduring a cosmic sorrow that stretches across the eons.
So, we have carefully walked through biological hijackings by alien swarms, excruciating fusions of flesh and heavy artillery, sensory deprivation coffins filled with madness, and 60 million years of cold, soulless emptiness. 8 deeply horrifying fates where dying in the mud would undoubtedly be a massive, celebrated upgrade. But I want to turn this immense cosmic dread back onto you. If you were absolutely forced by the dark gods of this universe to pick your poison, which specific nightmare would you choose to endure? Think about it, and let's debate your choice in the comments. Thanks for joining me on this incredibly dark explainer, and remember, in the grim darkness of the far future, sometimes a quick, silent end on the battlefield is the greatest blessing you could ever hope for.